and welcome back to my channel. It is Amanda, Pixie Does Mom, and today we're going to talk a little bit about rides for preschoolers at Walt Disney World. And preschool age, I say, is like 3, 4, maybe 5 years old. But there's a lot of rides for preschoolers. A lot of it depends on how adventurous your preschooler is. So I'm going to share some of my, well, when they were preschoolers, what my kids really loved to ride when they were preschool age. I did make a list. Magic Kingdom obviously has the most rides available for kids that age, in that kind of age range. Another thing that really depends on what your kids will like to ride or can ride will depend on their height. So when my youngest was 3, I guess when she was 3, she was not quite tall enough to ride the 40-inch rides. She was just under the mark. So rides like Soarin', Splash Mountain, any of the bigger roller coasters, Tower of Terror, any of those, she didn't get to ride any of those when she was 3. But of course now, you know, she's tall enough. But even now she's 5 and she doesn't hit that 44-inch for like Space Mountain and some of those rides. So, you know, they're kind of in that window of when they start hitting those height requirements for some different rides. So in Magic Kingdom, there's not a whole lot that has height requirements, and my battery's gonna die, so let me switch out the battery and then I'll get started on actually talking about rides. Okay, so yes, so I have my list in my lap here. Really, for Magic Kingdom, the only rides that have height requirements are Space Mountain, which I think is 44 inches. Big Thunder and Splash are at 40 inches. And Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is at 38 inches. And I think the Barnstormer is 35 inches maybe. So anyway, if your child has not ridden a roller coaster before, I would start them on the Barnstormer and see how they do. I wouldn't start them on Big Thunder unless, obviously, if they're older. But if they're little, the Barnstormer is a good starter roller coaster. And it's got that 35-inch, so usually by the time they're 2 or 3, they're tall enough to ride it. So those are the only ones with height limits. So all the rest of the rides at the Magic Kingdom, any of your, babies on up can ride. So I'm just going to talk about like my girls. I have 2 daughters. Their favorites, because obviously you can ride any of them, but the ones that every time we go they want to ride, this is kind of the ones they are. They love riding the teacups because they think it makes me sick, and so they think it's just hilarious to ride the teacups. They also like to, my youngest likes to ride the carousel. She has to ride the carousel every time we go. And she loves It's a Small World, for whatever reason. Haunted Mansion is one they both like to ride every time we go. And I think that's the biggest ones. They usually like to ride Peter Pan's Flight, so we ride it if I have a fast pass. Because I'm not standing in that line. And Winnie the Pooh is one. And for some reason I don't have it written down, but Winnie the Pooh is one we usually do end up riding at some point while we're there. So all of those are good options. I also think the People Mover is a good option, especially because it usually doesn't have a line, or it's, you know, it goes all the time, so you know you can get on it pretty quick, and it just kind of gives you a breather just to ride around for a few minutes. So that is one I do recommend. So moving on to Epcot. Epcot doesn't have as many rides, and of those rides, a lot of them have height requirements. So at Epcot, for preschoolers, the Seas with Nemo is a good choice. Turtle Talk is not a ride, but it is an attraction. It's kind of an interactive thing. My girls really like to do Turtle Talk, and they like Turtle Talk better than they like the Seas with Nemo, you know, for whatever reason. My girls love Journey into the Imagination with Figment. It's one of their favorites. They want to ride it every time we go. They love that ride. Also, once they get tall enough, Soarin' is a 40-inch requirement. They always like to ride Soarin'. Soarin' is one of their favorites. When I asked my oldest, she's almost 8, what her favorite ride is at Disney World, Soarin' is her favorite. Overall, all parks, Soarin' is her favorite ride. So there you go. Frozen is in the Norway Pavilion. They'll pick Soarin' over Frozen. We're not a huge Frozen family, but they like Frozen, but they like Soarin' better. The new ride, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, will be opening soon. I think that will be a good ride for all ages. Obviously, we've not rode it yet, but since this video may be watched in the future after it is here, then I would say that would probably be a good one. And there's a lot of meet and greets in the World Showcase and around Epcot. Princesses, Joy. I think right now you can meet Ralph and Vanellope. Baymax was there. I'm not sure if I don't think he's there. He's going to be there anytime soon. And of course, with the virus, they're not doing meet and greets at all. But maybe eventually those will come back. And so Epcot is a good place to kind of go around and meet some different characters that you may not see in other parks. Moving over to Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios has not a lot of rides. It does have more than it did since Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge has opened. So really quick, my girls' favorites at Hollywood Studios are the rides in Toy Story Land. You know, Alien Surveillance Officers, Slinky Dog Dash, and Toy Story Mania. Slinky Dog is their absolute favorite there. That's the one they pick. We haven't got to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway because the park's closed, what, 2 weeks after it opened, and so we've not been able to ride that one yet. So that's on their list for when we go. But that's no height requirement, and I'm thinking that is the only ride at Hollywood Studios. No, Toy Story Mania doesn't have a height requirement. But Toy Story Mania and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway are the only 2 rides that does not have a height requirement. So it's the only 2 babies can ride. And I'm going to have a baby when I go back. So there you go. They do have several shows there though. There's The Little Mermaid, Frozen, Indiana Jones, Beauty and the Beast. So there's several shows that you can take them to go watch if they're interested in any of those specific ones. My girls always look forward to the Tower of Terror. They like riding it, so go figure. Well, my oldest does. My youngest doesn't like it as good. So anyway, those are, and if they're into Star Wars, you've got Star Tours, Millennium Falcon, and Rise of the Resistance. So those are we're not big Star Wars watchers either, so we, you know, take it or leave it. So moving on over to the last main park, Animal Kingdom. A lot of the Animal Kingdom rides do have height requirements, and this is one thing I'm going to do another video on, being pregnant at Disney. Basically, if it has a height requirement and you're pregnant, you can't ride it. The exception to this is Kilimanjaro Safari. There is no height requirement, but they do not recommend for pregnant women to ride it. Enough said. And I was going to try it because some people have said that they did ride it when they were pregnant, but I checked with my doctor. My doctor said, no, you're not allowed to ride that. So there you go. But keep an eye out if you are going to be expecting and going to Disney World. That video will be coming out in the next month or two. So it's somewhere on my list. So anyway, Kilimanjaro Safari does not have a height requirement. Navi River Journey in Pandora does not have a height requirement. Triceratops Spin in Dino Land does not have a height requirement. As far as moving rides, I think that's it. I love the Lion King show. That's one of my favorite things to do at Animal Kingdom. You can go out to Rafiki's Planet Watch. They have like the little petting zoo and they can ride the train. There's no height there. It's tough to be a bug. It's kind of a 3D show kind of thing. So there's no height requirement there. But my girls love the Finding Nemo show, which was not my favorite, but this is a preschool video. My preschoolers loved Finding Nemo. They don't watch the movie, but they love the show at Animal Kingdom. So those are all options for preschoolers that may not hit that height requirement for some of those other rides. So if you have any questions, if you have a preschooler, leave their favorite Disney ride in the comments below, and if my kids haven't ridden that ride, we'll try to make sure it's on our bucket list for our next trip. Because I always like to do something new that they've not done before every time we go, which it's getting kind of difficult because except for like the new rides that have opened since the last time we went, they've done a lot of what is there. So yes, there's some good ideas to make a list of, especially if you've not been to Disney in a long time, or if you're going for the first time with kiddos. Some good ideas for what you might want to plan for your next trip to Walt Disney World. As always, if you need help planning your Disney trip, booking, if you want a free quote, if I can help, my information is in the description box below. I am a travel agent that specializes in Disney, so be sure to check that out if you're looking for someone to help you plan your trip. So I will talk to you all soon, and like and subscribe to see more. Thanks. Bye.